Hi, Billy Cosmosis, coming at you from here. Okay, so I've decided to talk a little about collaborations. The pros and cons. I actually really enjoy working as a collaboration, and I also enjoy working by myself. If I work by myself, I can be a complete zealot and get everything just the way I want it, be a complete control freak and work in my own time and get everything finished just the way I envisaged it and just how I wanted it, without any external influence. And that's fun, and I enjoy that, being a control freak. On the other hand, working as a collaboration with someone brings a whole bunch of interesting advantages. One of which is it's kind of more fun. If you work with somebody that you're kind of reasonably friendly with, it can be a good laugh, and it can help you get the session finished, help you get the track finished. It's kind of more pleasurable, and at its best, when it's working really well, a collaboration, it can be better than the sum of the parts. That's what you should aim for. So if you have X and Y producer come together, they should be able to produce something which is X multiplied by Y, not X plus Y. That's when it works its best. So you bring things out of each other, what someone else might do, suggest you'd shape it a bit, then they take that idea and shape it a bit, so it becomes greater than the sum of the parts, something that you wouldn't do individually. The main disadvantage, I think, of working alone as a modern studio musician, in which you're expected to do the composing, the engineering, the arranging and the production, all from one seat, all at the same time, that makes it very difficult. Not least because when you're in engineering mode, it's a very different type of brain function than when you're composing. When you're playfully making up music, one requires an artistic frame of mind, which is kind of open and playful, and the other, or an experimental, and the other, engineering state of mind, requires you to be very rational and very detailed. Another way of looking at it is, if you're in an engineering frame of mind, you're zeroed right in with a very, very sharp focus. For example, on getting, is it 15k that I need a boost on the hi-hats? Or is it a 10k boost I need? Or maybe that bell is a little bit wide on the parametric. That kind of ridiculously small focus is completely the opposite of something, the state of consciousness that you need to compose a piece of music, which requires you to look at the overall picture and go, let's put that chunk of sound over there and that big block of thing over there and see what happens. It's a completely different state of mind. And this, I think, is one of the difficulties when you're making music on your own. How to zoom in and see the overview so you can compose the music, a kind of macro view, if you will, and how to zoom in on a very micro level to adjust the tiny details. Well, one thing that you can do is become aware of the fact that there are two different zoom states. One is zoomed right in, and one is zoomed right out, like a telephoto lens. Zoom right in like a microscope and zoom right out. The problem with making music, and let's face it, we're all kind of nerdy if we're into computer music, is that we tend to obsess over details and we love geekdom. So we love getting into all the details and tweaking the the kick drum and the bass line to the nth degree, which is fine, but it doesn't necessarily make for good composition because you're obsessed and stuck at one end of that scale. And we have a tendency to do that as computer-based musicians. So I'd suggest one way to combat it is to become aware of it. So that understand that you need to zoom out to see the overall arrangement, and then zoom in to the micro details to get all those details correct, and not to get stuck in one or the other. But we have a tendency to get stuck in the details. So that's one of the difficulties of being a one-man band, as it were, working with a computer. That's great if you become aware of it. Now, one of the advantages of collaborating with somebody is because computers are not given to having several operators use them, they're geared towards one operator only. It means that one of you can be the overall arrangement producer and one can be the details man. So the guy driving the computer can be handling the details, and the guy sitting at the back and saying, oh no, I think we should drop 8 bars here and take the breakdown here. They're two separate ends of the spectrum, and that works really well. That can work really well. With one proviso, that the guy doing the details listens to the guy that's handling the overview. Tendency to get on the computer and be a zealot and just get into your details. But no, listen to the feedback so you can get the overall picture. If you're wise, you'll do that. So that's what's good about collaboration, is that you can have someone permanently sitting in an overview position, handling the arrangement and being zoomed out, and someone handling the details on the computer, tweaking all the things that need to be tweaked and arranging as per instruction from the man on the overview. Now, if you're both producers and not just a DJ and a producer, in other words, if you can both work with a sequencer, then you can swap, so that when you get bored tweaking the arrangement and buggering around with MIDI notes, then you can say, hey, swap over. And then you can be the guy that takes care of the overall arrangement, and the other guy can be handling the details, which can work really well. This is how I used to work with Seb Schachter. He was really familiar with Cubase. I used Cubase, so it was dead easy to work with him. I'd just be working for a couple of hours ago. Seb, I'm bored, I'll make some tea, and he'd get bang straight on the computer, and I'd be the overall overview man, and he would be handling all the details, particularly fast, because he's really fast on Cubase. So that can work really well. Another advantage of working as a collaboration is it's a lot more fun. You can have a laugh, you can kind of vibe each other up, you can push each other when it's necessary on a long session to get it finished. You can have the guy on the overall nagging the guy on the computer, hurry up and get things done. And if you have a good relationship, you can have a good laugh and you can get a lot of work done. And it's a lot more fun than working by yourself. So it boils down to this. On the one hand, if you work by yourself, you have the advantage of being a complete control freak and creating the track as exactly per your vision, spending as much time as you want over every last detail and getting everything exactly the way that you envisaged it. And that is satisfying, and that's cool. Working as a collaboration, against that, you have several advantages. One, it can be a lot more fun. Two, you have someone working as an overview and someone on a detail view. So you have these two perspectives always functioning, and you can swap over. That really helps. Three, you can have someone making the tea, the guy doing the overview, doing refreshments, and cracking the whip and saying, hey, we've spent half hour on these hi-hats already, let's get on with the next thing, which can optimize your time in a session, and you can get things done faster. And lastly, you can, at its best, produce a result that's greater than the sum of the parts. In other words, you might suggest something, they take the idea and suggest something else, and then you create something which neither of you would have thought of individually, but you would have thought of as a conglomeration together. And that's when collaboration is at its best, is when you create something that's greater than the sum of the parts, like a third entity. So that's the difference, on the one hand, between working by yourself, and on the other hand, working in collaboration.